Alright, so I've opened up Flash CS6. Granted, there's newer versions now, and they've also talked about Flash dying now. There's also been chat about, is it really dying, or are they just rebranding it? I don't know. We'll see what the case actually ends up being. There are still some useful things you can do with it, and there are still some things that people like to do with it. It's not near as widespread as it used to be, but it's still pretty popular. So I'm just going to create a new Actionscript file. There's different ways to do animation in this, and tweens are a great one to look at if you're not already familiar with them. You can also animate with the code itself. The last thing that you can do, well, not the last thing, I would say the next major thing that you often see is people actually just drawing things out in Flash. So I have my canvas here. It's kind of small. I'm okay with that. I'm just going to do Command plus to just zoom into it. I haven't transformed it. I've just zoomed in. It's still going to export at the same size. You can see the pixels here are still the same size. I've just zoomed in. Now, I have my tools over here. I don't really like this setup. Do I like Animator? I don't really like that setup either. Do I like Classic? That's the one. I like Classic. But whatever layout you like, awesome. So, here's a paintbrush. I'm going to use the paintbrush to do a little bit of basic animation just with onion skinning. So, up here I have a layer, and this is my timeline. And so if I draw, I end up filling this frame. Now, I can't move this over right now because I don't have any other things. If I tell it to insert a frame, now I can drag this back and forth. Right now, this single drawing is taking up both frames. Instead of just doing a regular insert frame, if I instead tell it to insert a blank keyframe or even a regular keyframe, I can now change what's on one versus what's on the other. And I could insert another one. Now, when I did keyframe, it kept the previous one, and I had to actually delete it. If I instead did blank keyframe, it starts with a blank, and I can sketch out. If I want to go all the way down here, I can right-click on this one and tell it to insert a blank keyframe. But it stretches this out all the way. If I don't like that, I can select all of it, and I can right-click and tell it to convert to blank keyframes. Now, all of these are blank, and I can scribble on all of them. Now, why is this useful? Well, right now it's really not. I mean, I could try to create an animation by drawing frame by frame, but the issue is going to be, like, how do we make sure that whatever I'm drawing, even if it's just some sort of little, I don't know, we'll draw a little bird. Even if I'm just doing something super simple, how do I make sure that I'm in the same spot? Even if it feels like the same spot to me, when I'm trying to draw it each time, there's a good chance that I'm going to be inaccurate, right? Those first two actually aren't that terrible. But there's a tool for this that will help us, and we call that onion skinning. So right here we have onion skin outlines, and if we click that, now we have this little cursor thing up here. And so now if I draw a simple little bird thing, I can go to the next frame, and I still have an outline of what it looked like before. Now I don't have to use this version. I could instead use this version or that version. I don't really like that one personally. This one actually edits multiple frames at once. But you can decide which version you like. I prefer this first one. And so now I could draw it out a little bit further, like he's got some movement going on, right? And I could move to the next one, and I could keep drawing it out to try to make it look like he's actually moving. Now I can also decide how large I want this to be. So when I'm on this one, I can see the previous two. When I go to this one, I can see the previous two. I can't see that first one. I can drag this out to be bigger or smaller, whatever is best for me. You might say, well, why do you want to have multiples? Well, if you are making it move a certain amount and you want it to go consistent speed, then you probably want that change in each one to be similar. If you want him to accelerate, then we need to move him a little bit further. I'm not sure why I made him so much bigger. So that way he starts actually going faster from one frame to the next. Now my drawing here isn't very great, but you get the idea with what you can do with onion skinning. Of course, the other option too is instead of redrawing it each time, I could use my selection tool, just a little black mouse arrow, and I could copy it, and then I could move to the next frame, and I could paste it, and I can drag him wherever he goes. And I could keep doing that to make him move across the page. Now, of course, when we're doing this, now he has this very static feel, because before he's very organic, and then he's not. He stays the same. Right now, this is moving really fast too, so I'm going to drop this frame rate down to maybe like 4, and now you can see, and then he becomes the same. So it doesn't feel that great with me switching styles, but you can decide how you want to do it. And of course, to make this easier to see, I can remove the onion skinning as well, and now you can see it kind of play out. Whatever speed you have this set to down here is the actual speed it's going to export. So you might have it set to one thing to kind of test it and see if you like how it looks. But when you export it, you want this to play at whatever speed you want it to actually be in the final product. So there's just a really quick little video on onion skinning. Hopefully gives you a rough idea of how it works and how you can use it. And that's it.